Welcome to episode 16 of 22 Man Game with Jared and Dame. I'm Jared, that's Dame on, and it is 8:50 Tuesday, November 11th, 2025. After what was all in all a fairly interesting week of football. Damon, how are you doing on this luxurious Tuesday?
I'm doing all right, Jared. It is late in the evening, as you said. I had a long day of educating the youth, and now I'm here, and I'm ready to discuss ball ethically. How are you doing, Jared?
I'm doing great. I got sick Saturday evening. We went
Boo.
to Rockets Spurs. Had a good time. One of us was
Yay.
responsible for us getting there partway through the first quarter, not to be named. Um, it was me. And after that, I had work on Saturday. Then immediately got hit with a wave of illness. That means I will likely trying to mute myself in and out instead of coughing loudly into the microphone. But we'll see how well I can manage that. But yeah, no, a little tired as well as a result, but excited to talk about a dynamic week of football with some surprising results, some entertaining games. Overall, I would say this was sort of a step up, I think, from the last few weeks in terms of intrigue. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's called the post Rockets L illness, actually, I think is what you came down with. When the Rockets lose a basketball game, us in-person fans, we get a little wave of illness now. Being that I've been to so many Rockets games, I've built the immunity to it, but first time for you, so that'll pass.
See, I thought it was heart sickness from being too far from Lindy Waters. So
Mm.
I guess I guess it could be that it's a deep cut. Former Piston, now Spur, Lindy Waters made exactly 1 to 3, as many as are in his name, and then vanished for the rest of the game.
6 minutes.
Speaking of vanishing, our time to record vanishes by the moment. So I say we jump in and start
Nice.
talking about the news. That was seamless. Wow. Let's start. There was obviously some heavy news this week. We're going to get to that a little bit later. We want to start with some more football related news, then work our way towards that. And this is about the 2026 Hall of Fame class for the NFL. Specifically, the coaching candidates came out this past week here. Some big names from our era of watching the game and from eras past for sure. Bill Belichick, Tom Coughlin, Mike Holmgren, Chuck Knox, Buddy Parker, Dan Reeves, Marty Schottenheimer, George Seifert, and Mike Shanahan, all finalists for the 2026 Hall of Fame coach class.
You know what I should have looked up is how many do they choose, or is it even a certain amount every year, or is it just like this is who we think deserves it, and it happens to be a different number every year?
You mean for the Hall in general or for the
Is
coaches
there,
specifically?
well, I guess both. Is there a specific like the hall will get this many people this year? Will each, category have this many people in it?
I want to say the Hall. Actually, I will start looking this up because I'm curious as well.
While Jared
Um,
looks it up, I will say this. There are the names I know on this list for sure. Bill Belichick, of course, Patriots dynasty coach, also the Browns a long, long time ago. Tom Coughlin, a goat of my childhood for defeating said Patriots on the Giants. I remember him fondly for that. And then after that, it's a lot of question marks. There are names I recognize, like Schottenheimer and Mike Shanahan specifically. Even like Chuck Knox, kind of, I'm like, oh, I know that name. I couldn't tell you who they coached, when they coached, and then the other names, not a clue, not a clue for me. Casual, casual ball knower.
um, okay. Wikipedia doing its best to help me out here. So
Try to
there,
buy you time and everything.
I know. Unfortunately, it's a little bit opaque on Wikipedia here. You'd think it'd be a little more clear. I knew that it was a range. So for 4 to 9 people are inducted every year, and I know that they do players, and then they have coaches in like an executive category as well. And I would need to like sit here and really do some digging to figure out exactly how that's broken down here. But I don't know if you mentioned Buddy Parker. I was looking him up because he got some mention. He was the Detroit Lions before the Super Bowl era in the 50s were multiple time champions. They and the Browns were the teams of the NFL. And Buddy Parker was the Lions coach during that decade. So just a tidbit I figured I'd mention. But I was under the impression that it was typically like one coach, one executive, and then like a collective of players. But maybe that's mistaken. But the class of 2025 was four people deep. So it really does vary kind of year to year. Um,
Four total
that
people.
four total people, which is the minimum.
Ah,
Yeah, I'm shocked, and all four of them were players. So I guess it really just varies on kind of resume. I also figured that Belichick would have to wait a little longer. He definitely didn't
yeah.
leave the NFL 5 years ago, but um, it seemed to mention that you have to wait 5 years as a coach, but maybe not.
He's
Uh,
a shoe-in at some point for sure.
oh, I think Uh, Belichick, I think will be unanimous. I could see Coughlin having to wait a while, especially I feel like with
Don't make him wait
both.
too long. He's gonna die. That guy was old when he was coach.
Well, you know, I know Buddy Parker is not still with us, so I think,
Yeah,
unfortunately, like an unfortunate reality of this is that there are players and coaches and contributors who may never see the fact that they've been enshrined while they're with us, which is unfortunate. But Marty Schottenheimer and Mike Shanahan being the dads of two current coaches,
right.
kind of crazy tidbit there, and I feel like that might kind of keep them more at the forefront of people's minds there. Ready to
Yeah.
move on from the Hall of Fame or any other
Yes.
HOF
Yes,
takes? Oh,
please.
let's do it. Uh,
Well, update when, we get the actual names, the big deal names they get in.
Speaking of Hall of Famers, just said that to make Addie upset. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow had his practice window activated, giving him 21 days to be back on the active roster before they have to shut him down for the year. Um, Coming back much sooner to practice than I think anyone anticipated. And I
Hmm.
wonder if this is partly because they kind of have a season on the brink, and if he doesn't see fit to return in the next 21 days based on the competitiveness of the roster, there's no point in like getting him back to speed in December. But if he can start practicing and maybe get on the field by mid to late November, and you've got one or two more wins to keep the team afloat in the AFC, it's like if you're still at only 3 wins in December, you're probably not even going to bring him into the practice window. But what do you think of this?
Yeah, it's interesting. Definitely sooner than most people thought, like you said. And, I think Joe Flacco has played admirably for them since getting traded over there. Jake Browning before was a different story. I don't know how much, I mean, obviously Joe Burrow's a better quarterback than Joe Flacco, but how much it changes because I think a lot of their losses are kind of just defense oriented because their defense is so bad. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's a mental thing with this. Maybe this gives the other guys like, oh hey, if we like hold the ship down here for the next couple of weeks, we like could have a shot. Joe's coming back, etc. Um, yeah, and I wonder what that could look like. But you look at the Steelers and their terrible loss that we'll talk about later, and of course the Ravens started off rough with the Lamar injury, so it's not impossible for any of these teams to kind of climb to the top of the division.
Yeah, I mean the Bengals certainly aren't out of it. I think that's maybe a good point that I think the team needed something to change the energy, and maybe this was a way to sort of distract from the fact or draw attention away from the fact that they've had so many defensive collapses. But it has been it's been tough sledding for the Bengals, and I think um, they need to turn it around like right now if they want to have any chance for him coming back to truly matter. And I think ultimately with that defense, even if they somehow snuck into the playoffs or somehow won their division, I don't trust them to make it through a playoff series. Uh,
It's fair.
Next little bit here, it's just kind of a fun tidbit. Both Micah Parsons of the Packers and Kenny Clark of the Cowboys have poison pill conditions to prevent them from being traded to division rivals. of their previous teams. Obviously, for Micah, that's the Cowboys. For Kenny Clark, that's the Packers. And these poison pill conditions are essentially stipulations in their contract that severely punish the teams that traded for them. That's sort of what a poison pill is in general. In this case, I believe they would both be assessed a 2027 first round pick going to the other team if they traded to a division rival. So if Micah Parsons got traded to the Eagles, the Packers would owe an additional first rounder to the Cowboys, and vice versa if Clark went to Vikings, Bears, or Lions.
Yeah, it's interesting. And they also announced that the Eagles tried to trade for Micah Parsons before the Packers did. So that was probably another reason that that condition was added to this because you don't want players of this talent to end up back in your division against you twice a year if you can avoid it. So interesting that both teams had agreed to it. But I don't think, I guess the thought is like, we don't plan on trading this guy anyways. So sure, if that makes you feel more comfortable doing it.
I also imagine, the Cowboys were willing to make a deal in conference, but I imagine that in general you'd probably rather ship them away anyway. So
Hmm.
Micah Parsons, if he ever re-entered the trade block, would have plenty of suitors not in the NFC East. And Kenny Clark, if you really wanted to trade Kenny Clark, I'm sure you could get him somewhere that is not um, one of the three other NFC North teams. So uh, this felt, I mean, it's non-trivial, but it did feel a little maybe overkill. But maybe the Cowboys or the Packers get Parsons for the Cowboys, and the Eagles call and say, "Hey, we made a twice as ridiculous offer they wouldn't take," and then the Packers cash in like four firsts or something. That'd be kind of silly. But either way,
Why did this come out so much later?
it's a little odd timing.
Uh,
I wonder if this was something that they uncovered after Packers Cowboys, but before this game, and said, "Oh, let's just hold on to this because Packers Eagles, it'll be a fun little narrative piece or something."
sure.
Um,
Oh yeah.
y- I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of because otherwise, it's like, you know, it's fun, but it's not worth sitting on. Um, Speaking of sitting on,
Speaking
President
of
Trump.
poison,
Hey, I tried to sidestep it, and then you went there. Um,
uh,
yeah, that's fine. The original transition I was going to go with, it was speaking of silly. Donald Trump, current president of the USA, wants to have the Commanders' new stadium named after him. Um, I'm good. I don't need that.
I,
Do you?
here's my question, right? My question is like, obviously there are lots of things in America named after former presidents, like boats, for example. They have a lot of those
Sure.
big naval ships named after people, streets, monuments, blah blah blah. I would imagine for most, if not all of these things, this happens not because the president wants it to happen, but because somebody else makes the choice to honor a president or former president or passed away president. I don't imagine it's the current president in office saying, you should name that after me. That's just a little different. Just a little different, not ethical.
Yeah. Unethical, not very ball as well. Yeah, I think I'm willing to come out and say that I am not the number one fan of our current regime here, and I do think that it is it's one thing to name like buildings that are both government owned and with a strictly municipal purpose after a politician, but and I know that the Commanders previously had like RFK stadium, but I just think that it's not really the space to bring that in. It's inherently divisive, unnecessary. I don't think Trump Stadium has a great ring. Um, Trump Arena feels oddly right in the sense that I could envision Trump presiding over a gladiatorial combat. And I don't think
Mm.
that's the vibe. Exactly. So
And of course
yeah.
he was at the game. I had to mute the game during that. I couldn't listen for some amount of time. I was like, oh.
Um, as you know, a former student of ours has a certain fascination with Trump, and so I was, and to be clear, a fascination with doing an effective impression of Trump. And so I was sort of entertained by the premise, and mostly an apolitical interview. Uh, watching Jonathan Vilma and Kenny Albert attempt to do that was difficult. My feelings on Vilma are well documented. Not a terrible call from him the last couple games. Mostly just talked about his old like football career, and then Vilma was like, "What do we have to be excited about right now in America?" And he's like, "Oh, economy's great, whatever." Just this kind of boilerplate stuff. But yeah, I mean, over and done in about 10 minutes. First president, sitting president to go to an NFL game since Jimmy Carter back in the 70s, and
That's wild.
that surprised me. I really figured this would be, especially with a sport that has such a distinctly American connotation, you would see um, presidents go to those things. I guess they have things to do that are important, but you would think that they could at the very least pop in for like an hour or come out and stand on the field at like a season opener or something during the anthem or something like that, and then just leave. But yeah, interesting move from him there. And my fear is this will be blocked politically, like he won't be able to do it, and then he'll just use the funds that he's acquired, definitely without any suspicious doings, from his presidential library, and use that to sponsor the naming rights for the stadium with the presidential library money,
Mm.
which would be a bit of a bummer, but um,
Library Stadium.
that would be a great name for. Um, I, I'm trying to think. Could you make like a library themed stadium? I know we've talked a little bit with Dom about how they have crypto.com arena for the Lakers, and you
Terrible.
just make it the crypt, right? Which is sweet.
Yeah.
Could you do like kind of a library themed stadium? I think that would be intriguing. Silence the opposition, that's kind of the theme, and then
Right.
play off
Right.
that. Um, you know, take a page out of our book and dominate. That could be another little tagline there. Um, before I keep talking, I'm gonna move on because I'm both sick of my own voice and sick of what I'm using my voice to say. In
Um, one criminal to another. Former
got him.
NFL wide receiver Antonio Brown was arrested for an attempted murder charge, brought back to Miami, Florida from New Jersey, I believe, and today showed up in court with a not guilty plea. So this happened back in May from what I was reading, and somehow you just get arrested 6 months later when you're like a super famous person. I don't
No,
know.
I think he was extradited from France, if I'm not mistaken. I'll check
Oh,
on this,
why
but
did I read? I read New Jersey somewhere.
I wonder if they
Um,
flew him into Jersey, then transported
yeah,
him to my.
they shipped him. They shipped him from another country. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Uh,
because it would be wild if for the transfer to Florida had waived extradition to Florida from New Jersey, where he was brought following his arrest in Dubai. Excuse me, Dubai.
uh,
Um,
I'm
so
glad
I
I
guess
didn't
he
make
was.
that New Jersey part up, but I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah, yeah,
realize
yeah.
there was a
So,
previous stop before that. I see.
um,
So were
yeah,
they like, was he
honestly,
like on the run for 6 months? Like, what does that
yeah. I
mean?
mean, I remember this story happening, and I think that he left the country, and um they tracked him down. But I could have sworn I remember him being charged with this.
We may
Um,
have talked about it, and I may have just totally forgot because NFL and former NFL players are constantly doing insane things.
I actually think it happened before we even started.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. May was
Yeah,
definitely
because
before we started.
yeah, Brown was apprehended by U.S. Marshals on Thursday in Dubai, ending a months-long search per Bob Harkins of the Athletic. So, pretty surprising he was able to even leave the country in the first place. But really tragic. I feel like it's hard not to imagine how mental health, traumatic brain injuries may have played a role in the direction Antonio Brown's life has taken. There's a lot of speculation about that, and very curious to see down the line, whether we get any more clarity on that. But
Perhaps the
yeah,
first person that will donate their live brain to CTE scanning.
he, I
That's a
mean, he can
joke.
only determine
That
it
was
if
kind
it,
of a
yeah,
joke.
yeah. I mean, but it is unfortunate because I think Antonio Brown now has erased his reputation as one of the best wide receivers of the 2010s,
for
and
sure.
like a truly standout player at his position who's now kind of scrubbed from the narrative around football after being dominant for a long time. Uh, Obviously, of course, the biggest shame being the nature of the crime, and hopefully, all parties involved get peace and restitution, and fairness comes to the outcome there. Speaking of restitution,
More
Fox Sports,
criminals.
more crime. I will say, brief comment before we move on. I have been surprised at how much negative news, either sad or relating to criminal charges, right? Whether it's death or crime, whatever happens around the NFL. Like I think it's something that you'd read about and kind of filter passively as a fan when you're looking for football news. But now that we're trying to take a larger look, all of this kind of actively filters every week, and
Welcome,
it's hit me a lot
welcome,
harder.
Jared, to sports media where a lot of bad stuff happens. And
Yeah, I
guess what?
mean,
And here's a comment. Sorry, I didn't mean to just cut you off
no, go
entirely.
ahead, please.
Um, the comment I was going to make, and part of the reason that we do this and why we call this ethical ball is a lot of sports media markets just blow past this stuff. So
Yeah,
I
no,
think it's worth. It's not like we want to celebrate what we're talking about here, but we think it's worth mentioning at the very least.
yeah, I think it's important that we provide a platform for us to both have discourse about it, and then also for others potentially to have discourse about it, because these things are linked, right? They're inextricably linked, and I think the NFL and sports in general feel so detached from our reality that we forget that this is a workplace, right? It's a strange comparison to make, but a lot of the same standards that we'd like to hold our employers to, our coworkers to, as part of the community and fabric of our lives. That's the exact same relationship these players have with their coaches, team owners, executives, fellow players, and like some of those power dynamics are heavily exaggerated, right? Because it's not like the you know range of income in the office is everyone at your level of employment makes within 10 grand of each other. It's, one player's making hundreds of millions and one player's making hundreds of thousands. So, just important to keep this conversation going, and we're going to do that now. Um, Earlier in the year, we discussed how Mark Sanchez got in an incident in which he was stabbed repeatedly by a man who he had allegedly engaged with verbally, and the man was allegedly engaging in self-defense, an older man. Well, we now hear from Fox Sports that Mark Sanchez will not return as an analyst, which felt like a foregone conclusion to me, but has now been solidified by Fox.
Yeah, I actually like this because I think that, what it seems like to me in terms of the timeline, because it's been several weeks now, is it feels like they were kind of waiting for the criminal investigation and to get the evidence. And like, it sounded like, the first time it came out, it was like, oh no, Mark Sanchez is hurt. And then like a day after, it was like, oh wait, he was the bad guy. But after some weeks, I guess they were really waiting before they were like, yeah, we're going to can him. Because, imagine if as soon as it came out, they were like, he's done, but then he's like actually innocent and all of it. That would be way worse. So, um, what it seems like is they were just maybe kind of waiting for the real proof and all that and to make their decision. At least that's what I'll hope as the optimist.
No, I think you're 100% right there. Um, it certainly looked bad, but especially I found it unusual. I feel like it doesn't normally happen that the narrative completely reverses on a story like that. And so definitely some unusual circumstances there, and good that they took a beat and allowed the investigation to proceed, and then held them accountable appropriately once the investigation had a clear result, it seems. So um, I know that Mark Schlereth, I believe, has been stepping into a number of broadcasts. I wonder if he will be permanently elevated, or whether they'll maybe seek a former player. I know Drew Brees got hired somewhere, but I can't remember if it was as a booth analyst for the Fox Sports. Yeah, so maybe they'll bring up Drew Brees to do that. Um,
Uh, Plenty
so
of
Drew
football
Brees.
players. That's one of the things about the sport. There are so many guys you can just kind of throw in there if
Do
they
you know
really
Drew
want
Brees
to.
went to Westlake, by the way?
I feel like I did know that, like secretly in the back of my mind. I knew he was from this area.
Yeah, he came back a few weeks ago for their alumni event to get his jersey retired, and they lost, but still interesting. Uh, so yeah, I'm sure that there's a pipeline of guys. The top of Fox's broadcast order is pretty set with Tom Brady, obviously, and then right behind him, Greg Olson, and so yeah, maybe Drew Brees will kind of step in and become that next voice. Pretty common path for QBs.
Yeah.
Um, some other news here: former NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue passed away in his home from heart failure complicated by Parkinson's disease. He was the commissioner of the NFL prior to Roger Goodell. I believe that transition happened in 2006. Rich Eisen spoke very highly of him. I was reading a little bit and hearing a little bit just on the broadcast. They gave a lot of time to sort of discussing his legacy. Responsible for the Rooney Rule, one thing I heard mentioned, and also kind of the creation of NFL Network. Eisen gave a lot of credit to him for that. Um, Maybe a not so great track record on concussions was kind of the big asterisk on his tenure and something he addressed later in his career. Sort of, I think it might have been his Hall of Fame induction, but he came out and said, "Hey, I wish I'd maybe taken a different approach to this." But
Mm.
um,
Hey, that
tragic.
accountability is nice though.
I'm sorry.
That accountability is nice though.
No, 100%. It seems like you know, I'm not going to say relatively uncontroversial figure because I obviously don't know a ton about his time there. They mentioned on, I think, one of the broadcasts there was never like a labor strike during his tenure. So, that's a good sign for him as well. Seemed generally well liked and kind of both before of our times as football fans. We've kind of known Goodell
Hmm.
since my football consciousness developed, at least. But it seems like he laid the groundwork for some of the staples of the game and some of the ways that the league has started to make progress towards greater equitability and fairness in its hiring practices, and those are good things via the Rooney Rule. So, um, yeah. Any thoughts on the passing of Paul Tagliabue?
No, obviously, sad, heart failure, Parkinson's. He was relatively elderly, so it seems like pretty natural. It wasn't something sudden or anything like that. But I know still has a fair amount of family. Obviously, wish them the best in this time of grief and all of that. And yeah, I mean, from where I imagine the NFL was before his time as commissioner to after his time as commissioner, I think there was probably some amount of improvement, just considering simple things like what people wear and stuff like that. So like, there's minor kind of evolution stuff that not necessarily is like, oh my God, he's the godfather of it, but ultimately, allowed it to happen, I guess.
Yeah, this is going to be this is going in my mental file folder of would it be worth maybe during the off season taking a deep dive at what his time as commissioner looked like. I kind of feel like
Mm-hmm.
such an important figure in a league that often doesn't get a lot of discussion. I know Adam Silver's kind of a very forward-facing commissioner for the NBA, but I feel like Goodell sort of, oh, he's like there, but what does he really do?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of an interesting position in sports, um, and a unique requirement of having essentially one large company owned by 32 large companies.
Yeah.
So maybe worth investigating that in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's hit this last piece of news. I think this hit me pretty hard this week. I think it hit a lot of people pretty hard. Cowboys defensive end Marshawn Kneeland. He took his own life via gunshot wound after evading police and crashing his car um, late in the night earlier this week. I want to say was it Tuesday or Wednesday? Do you remember? Um,
Yeah, I don't know. Cowboys were on bye this week, so I'm not sure. I don't remember. It
yeah,
was not
he
long after their game.
no, it was I guess it had to be probably Wednesday or Thursday just because we record on Tuesday, but either way,
Mm-hmm.
don't want to get too caught in the weeds here. He had evaded the police and then they later found his vehicle crashed and then obviously the gunshot wound. His mother passed away before he was drafted in the second round in 2024, so he was pretty young. Um, Scored his only NFL touchdown in his last game, recovering a blocked punt against the Cardinals. The league requested, and all NFL teams took a moment of silence for Kneeland prior to their games. Notably, even I don't know why the international game would be an exception, but the fact that they did it in Germany, I thought was a nice gesture because you're a full nation, full continent removed from this player from this situation, and so to set that time aside and respect him in the middle of that, I think is really important. And Cowboys, as you mentioned, were on bye, but they will have a tribute to him coming up as well.
Yeah, I believe Micah Parsons had an additional moment. I watched Eagles Packers. I don't remember if there was one before the game, but I do know that Micah Parsons kind of took his own separate thing, as well as a former teammate.
Yeah, he was 24 at the time of his death, which is younger than both of us. And I think this is just another reminder of how important mental health is, right? Not at all an accusation at the Cowboys or the NFL for not properly tending to his mental health. That everyone's circumstances are different and everything. I don't have a ton of information on what was going on in his personal life or what may have precipitated these things. So it's just another reminder that it's important to build a strong mental health infrastructure and to express compassion wherever possible, and really challenging for his teammates. I have to imagine it's really difficult to have to come back in after that happens, and try to coalesce again as a team.
Yeah, two things. One, I do think there were reportings of suicidal ideation at some point, basically, that he had kind of mentioned it, which is weird because in our year of 2025, I do feel like it is something that is kind of talked about, perhaps joked about often lightheartedly amongst people, and you know, it makes that I think a little more difficult to figure out when people are being serious or not, or like the level of severity to what they're saying is. Obviously, that's tough. Believe they had a tribute to his girlfriend and his remaining family members as well. Obviously, wish them nothing but the best in this time of grief. And then the second thing, the quick negative I will point out, some stuff I saw, usually on Twitter, of course, just regarding like people are gonna make this about like CTE and we're gonna do this and that and the Cowboys, we hate the Cowboys. Just gross. That this shouldn't really play a part into the situation.
Yeah, I um actually once I just want to make sure I get his name right. I've been on TikTok a little bit more lately, which maybe is not the best choice for me in my life, but I do get exposed to some narratives I otherwise wouldn't encounter. And there was some controversy around Brian Kelly, former coach of LSU, with a player, Greg Brooks Jr., who was found to have a brain tumor. And a lot of people were kind of accusing him of maybe not doing enough to make sure that he was getting checked out and such things to catch it early because he's now kind of in a motorized chair, mobility chair.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of accountability that's been pushed at Kelly, and I'm not going to comment on whether it's right or wrong. I'm simply not versed enough, but I see similarities in that dialogue of looking for someone inside of an organization to blame or trying to push that out. And one, I don't think that's like should be the point or the goal, to find someone to blame. I think accountability matters, but there's a time and a place for that. And in the wake of this, he's got 52 teammates and family and a partner and so many people who are in his corner, players on college teams and high school teams and everything. A lot of people are feeling really terrible, really heartbroken about it. So it's not the moment to just start lambasting organizations and look past the person, right? And look past who he was and what he meant to people. So, um, but kind of random, but this was someone I wanted the Lions to draft. He was edge rusher. We needed an edge rusher. I believe he played at Western Michigan. And so a name that I kind of recognized and sort of had in the back of my head, and it's just heartbreaking. Just heartbreaking.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, Sorry, I thought I had another thought. I guess I lost it there, and that's okay. Um, I think we should move on, but something definitely that we'll be thinking about, and hopefully the Cowboys are able to unite as a team, honor his life, and work together to play well in his honor and such things. Let's go ahead and move on. Difficult to do that, but we do need to talk about Week 10, and we're going to start with our wheel games from Week 10. I had Rams at Niners, and you had Dolphins, or I believe Bills at Dolphins, if I'm not mistaken. Would you
Correct.
like me to start, or would you like to start?
I put you first because I put you first last week, and then you made me start anyways. So
Okay, I will
I
start.
try to alternate it every week.
All right, I will start. Trying to transition. Rams won this game 42-26. And this was at the Niners Stadium here. As you mentioned, Stafford became the first player in NFL history to throw four plus passing touchdowns with zero picks in three straight games. Um, Second week in the row watching the Rams. I don't want to say this score is misleading, but for much of the third quarter, it was a one-score game. The Rams ended up pulling away pretty comfortably in this contest. George Kittle was an offensive engine for the Niners. He was the thing keeping the lights on when no one else was able to make things go. Obviously, McCaffrey will always get his, but Kittle was just a really consistent target for Purdy. Niners had a few momentum killing penalties. I believe one on defense, one on offense, if I recall, that um, helped the Rams get out of a rut and then also put them in kind of a bind. And then I want to say it was the second quarter, Jawan Jennings fumbled. Um, the Rams were my team. So, what do I have to say about the Rams? Well, the offense slaps. I believe I misspoke about 13 personnel maybe last week. Um, 13, that first number is number of running backs, and then the second number is the number of tight ends, not wide receivers and tight ends.
Mm.
Misspoke there. So 13 is what everyone's been talking about. Athletic Football Show loves to talk about their 13 personnel, one running back, three tight ends. And those tight ends are indeed just a weapon for them. They're absolutely gashing the field right now with, you know, second rounder Terrence Ferguson, and they've got Higbee, and um, I want to say like Jeff Davis isn't his name. Davis Allen. There it is. Davis Allen. And they may have a fourth tight end they rotate in as well, but um, just really able to weaponize the middle of the field. Devontae Adams is so good. I feel like he and Stafford are in great sync right now, able to create some really easy catches where Stafford just kind of puts it in a spot where Devontae knows to go get it, kind of before the corner can even recognize that it's what's happening. And they're really short kind of out routes or in breaking routes, but in the goal line, that's lethal, right? All you need is 2 yards. They go and get it. Um, Really impressed with the Rams overall as a result. I believe part of the reason for this kind of odd score is they may have missed an extra point at some point. And then I think they actually got it back with two. So six touchdowns, but you feel like you rarely see just six touchdowns, six extra points, 42. Um, a big narrative for them coming into this week was their kicker, who did not really have a major footprint in this game because no field goals were attempted. In the fourth quarter, they definitely pulled away, turned on the Jets. I wasn't like blown away by the defense. The secondary looked competent. I don't think they necessarily crashed into Mac Jones a ton. Um, but this is a strong offensive performance against a team of a much higher caliber than the Saints. So 2 weeks in a row, they've looked electric. Their receiving core and their offensive skill players and Stafford himself just lighting up teams right now. Blake Corum, their second running back, I think is a really nice piece for them. He's got great speed. He was in the return game, able to break him loose. So even when you put their top back, Kyron Williams, on the bench, you're still able to light people up with Corum. And I think that's really tough for defenses is when you have two elite running backs or two an elite and a very good running back where you're able to sort of cycle through really high level play. Defense doesn't get a down off where your second running back's coming in and yeah, maybe you're going to get 4 yards, but they're not going to kill you. Doesn't matter if it's Williams or Corum. They're going to absolutely punish you for a missed tackle or two. And he had a couple breakout runs behind Williams, who also had a productive day. Uh, and yeah, just an incredibly balanced offensive attack. And if your defense isn't firing or your offense isn't playing to its maximum potential, you're going to have a hard time beating the Rams in games going forward.
Yeah, totally agree with everything that you said. I thought of when you were talking about tight ends, Colby Parkinson, who is a Rams tight end.
That
So
is the fourth one. That's the fourth one. Thank you.
I'm happy that I wrote that name. I was like, Colby Parkinson's a Ram, isn't he? I don't know why that I know that name, why it came to mind, but I confirmed that it was. So I was happy about that. And then there was another thing that you said, and I've already forgotten what my address of it was. I think Devontae Adams left with a hamstring injury very briefly, and then wanted to come back in because the Rams got in the red zone. They wouldn't let him, and that was kind of like a fun little thing that happened. Because he was like, "No, come on, like let me go get a touchdown," and they were like, "No,
Yeah.
we got this game handled." Uh,
No, it's
49ers are very injured, of course, still. Yeah.
no, sorry. Yeah, it's just going to be. I mean, the Rams are just they're stacked offensively. They are stacked. I think, um, talent wise, in terms of just like player one to player 11 on that offense, it's a short list. You could argue maybe the Lions. You could argue the Eagles. Just in terms of like having a wide receiver one and two, having a strong tight end one, having a couple strong running backs. Like there's just not a lot of teams that match that profile. But yeah, Niners still super banged up. Mac Jones doing his best out there. Just a tough team to handle. But yeah, it was interesting that for a late set of games where there were three blowouts, this one I think was the most competitive in the third quarter. Where if the Rams had blundered, the Niners could have gotten fully back in, but they didn't, and the Niners didn't.
Miserable set of games,
It
man.
was
That was a tough slate.
yeah, it was tough unless you were a fan of our team, in which case we had a little shining light. But if you're looking for competitive football, you were not going to find it in the late window. I'm going to pass the mic off to you and mute myself so I can loudly sniffle as you tell us about Bills Dolphins.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, so my team was the Bills this week, and I was like, okay, Bills, yeah, let me take a look at what I have to see. Oh, they're playing the Dolphins. Okay, it's pretty shoddy defense. They're not doing so great this season. Bills probably walk over them. I won't learn that much. And I didn't learn that much, but it was for the opposite reason because the Dolphins put up 30 on the Bills 13, absolutely destroyed them at home. Totally unexpected result. And I didn't learn a lot because I don't think that the results of this game really mean much for either team, but I will talk about what I saw. Before I do that, though, I want to mention Bills offensive tackle Deion Dawkins was the NFL PA Community MVP this week. He fundraised is not the right word. He paid for three different class of students in the Buffalo area for three different educational outings. I read the whole article. One of them was like a natural science museum, and then there's kind of other stuff like that, kind of random classes of students that he helped do that. And it's something that he continually does. So it's not like a one-time thing, but he kind of is always helping out the community in that way. I believe when I was reading the article, he's been nominated for Walter Payton Man of the Year like three times. Like he's basically always the Bills guy that gets nominated every year. So very cool of him to do. I wanted to talk about that. Um, what did I see in the football game though? Bills tight end Dalton Kincaid left the hamstring injury. I'll mention that. But I think what happened is the Bills came into this expecting the Dolphins to kind of roll over. They looked pretty lackadaisical on offense early in their first drive. Um, just like third and three, and they gave James Cook like an inside zone. Didn't get the first down. Punted to the Dolphins. And then the Devon Achane explosion started to occur. I've watched this guy play before. He is oft injured as he's like 5'8" in the NFL. But man, he is very fast. And, typically in the NFL, you guard running backs with a linebacker. Linebackers are nowhere close to fast enough to guard this guy. But you don't typically put corners back there because you need them on receivers, etc. And I think what he did for them this game is really kind of open space for the offense, both horizontally and vertically. We had a ton of screens out to the side to Achan and things like that, and just kind of let him work in the open space because he can make people miss. That's what he does. He's so small and elusive in that way. And then that was allowing guys like Jalen Waddle to get open downfield because the defense was kind of playing under in case they screened it out to Achan or somebody else. Um, Malik Washington as well was had a couple of these. And then Waddle would kind of burn him over the top because the defense was ready for the small play. So it was adding this kind of vertical level to their offense, which was interesting. And then it was also adding kind of space because they were going to the outside of the field. And then people could cut in for slant stuff a little easier because they were kind of playing to the outside. It was an interesting Dolphins offense. And it started early with that first drive. It was very methodical, kind of got down, got a touchdown. And then the Bills had a turnover on a James Cook fumble. Dolphins got another touchdown. Josh Allen threw a pick in the end zone when they were about to score. So these kind of sloppy plays, three Bills turnovers that I remember. Josh Allen pick I mentioned, fumble that occurred later in the game when they were trying to come back, and then a James Cook fumble. Just kind of let this Dolphins team to an easy victory. And the Bills defense doesn't look great, especially in the secondary. They were having a tough time dealing with Waddle and tackling guys like Achane in the open field. So their defense just kind of got burnt and their offense looked kind of lazy. And, since the exit of Stephon Diggs, they have not had an alpha receiver. And that's maybe something they could have used today because there just wasn't a lot of playmaking going on. I think it's usually a lot of Josh Allen doing it for himself, and that just didn't pan out this football game.
Yeah, the call was talking about how there was some ruckus about bringing back um Brian Daboll, who we'll talk about him for the Giants game, but to come back as like an offensive assistant or offensive coordinator to replace Joe Brady, but doesn't look like they're planning on doing that in any capacity this season. It's a shame, honestly, because I didn't like the Dolphins going into the season, but now that they've lost a lot, they kind of have that underdog feel to them, and they've played a couple lights out games the last 3 weeks, hammering the Falcons and now the Bills. And if they'd won a couple of their, I was looking back at their schedule, if they'd beaten like the Panthers and the Browns, they're 5-5 in a weaker AFC than in years past. And the rest of their schedule is Commanders, Saints, Jets, Steelers, Bengals, Bucks, Patriots. And
Hmm.
those last two are tough, but I could absolutely see them winning those other five if they're playing like this every week, right? And
Hmm.
that would be kind of that would have made them maybe kind of a fun, sneaky wild card, don't count them out team. And I wonder if we're seeing now why the Dolphins feel comfortable keeping Mike McDaniel around for the rest of the season to see if he can turn it around because maybe this was in part the Bills losing more than Miami winning, but anytime you can hang 30 on a team that just beat one of the AFC's top contenders, I think that means something about who you are.
Yeah, I just didn't, I don't know where either of these teams were. I don't know, like, where has this Dolphins team been all season? Granted, Tua, had a couple of moments too. There's this one moment where he scrambled out of the pocket, and basically it was just like, the meme that's like, F it, he's down there somewhere. Just threw the ball, and it went right over Waddle's head, just picked by rookie Maxwell Hairston. I was like, yep. I've seen that happen before. But a lot of this game looked pretty poised, looked pretty good. And yeah, the Bills just looked like they didn't come ready to play. I think coming off the Chiefs win, they were kind of like, yeah, well, let's try that hard to beat Miami, and they should have tried a little harder.
Yeah, total letdown game for the Bills. We've seen a couple of them this year where they're playing teams they should beat, and they get beat instead. Looking at the Falcons Monday Night Football game. So on the Bills, I feel like keep giving themselves chances to say we are the team of the AFC. And then they keep handing those chances away, right? They beat the Ravens week one, signature win. They beat the Chiefs, signature win, and then they just have these like head scratchers in the middle of the season. They kind of feel like a reverse Panthers to me, where they're winning games they maybe aren't expected to win, losing games they are definitely expected to win. But I skew to the belief that they're probably better than they look than worse. So, any other takeaways from this one?
No, that's all I had for you, Jared.
Well, then let's get into our pop and stop games this week, the games that popped and the games
Yay.
we wished would stop. And we'll start with the international game, which I don't know if you were awake for, but I thought
No, I wasn't.
it was a genuine banger, in my
Actually,
opinion.
you super know I wasn't, because this I don't remember if I told you about this. Maybe I didn't tell you about this. This past Saturday, our mutual friend X and
Oh,
I
you did.
stayed up until 6 a.m. watching League of Legends Worlds. So I went to sleep about 2 hours before this game.
Yeah, you sent me all of it. You and X sent me a lot of TikToks. I know I'm supposed to go
Mhm.
watch this now. Potentially. It seemed really fun. I now get a ton of TikToks for it.
I
Um,
also do when I upload ethical ball things. It's the only reason I have TikTok, but yeah.
um, do I want to ask if like that Faker guy won because I wasn't clear on it. It seemed
He
like he
did.
did,
He did
but
win.
okay.
Championship number 6 for Faker.
Wow. Faker. That's a metaphor reference
Metaphor,
for
metaphor.
just us.
Uh,
If you want to know what it feels like to hear two nerds talking to each other from across a lunchroom, hit that subscribe button right now.
yes,
Um,
sir.
Speaking of electric fairy tale worthy endings here. Colts Falcons in the home of the Brothers Grimm, Germany. Colts win this one 31-25 in a game that traveled to overtime across the pond. And a little further than that, even. This was a great matchup, in my opinion. I thought there was explosion back and forth. It wasn't an offensive barn burner, but neither team was fully asleep. Colts defensive tackle DeForest Buckner placed on IR with a neck injury, unfortunately, but um, the Colts nonetheless able to pull it out, even though Sauce Gardner maybe not playing at his peak. That was some of the analysis I heard. He didn't really show up in a great way, bad way, just sort of in what I saw was there. But when in doubt, Jonathan Taylor balls out, the first player in NFL history to record three plus rushing touchdowns 4 times in the first 10 weeks of a season, which for those of you at home, just so you know, is insane. Um,
Yeah, like Saquon last season.
yeah, I mean, it seems like even beyond that. And just as like a point of reference, I believe the Lions single season record for touchdowns by running back, rushing touchdowns is like 20. So to have 12 in 4 games in the first 10 weeks of the
Yes.
season, not to mention the other weeks, is insane. That's an insane thing to do. Awesome player. Daniel Jones, I don't know what happened to him. I guess he got like hit in the chin or something, but on the last drive of regulation, he's bleeding out of his mouth. He looks like, um,
Metal AF.
what is that a reference to?
No, I just said metal. Like metal AF, as in
Oh,
the acronym.
sorry. I thought you said like a woman's name because I was thinking horror films because it looked like, um, they've got like the blood lipstick or whatever. Like it looked like he spread it on his teeth. Like, don't I look beautiful now? Um, it was genuinely shocking. And they cut so close to his face during that drive. I don't know if you've seen it, but worth
Mm-mm.
uh,
Brutal.
worth looking up if you've not. Um, but yeah, I mean, he played well enough to win. Falcons played poorly enough to lose. Um, this to
They've
me
been
is
doing
just
that this
another,
season.
yeah, just another evidence point that I needn't think about the Falcons any longer. And I have a joke theory I want to share about the Falcons when we get to another game in our
Okay.
list here. I'll hold on to it for now, but prepared to be amused, let's say.
Sauce
Yeah,
had
this was
the international debut.
yeah, yeah.
Not
This
as
is
in his first international game, but his debut with the Colts was international.
for Sauce. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, No, and I believe first game in Berlin as well. Interesting how they did kind of they had the PA in both English and German, like they had both of those, and you could hear them in the pregame broadcast, um, which was sort of fun. And I I think it's really interesting to see the league continue to spread and how different fans interact with it. We're getting a game in Madrid next week. Really excited to see how Spain receives an NFL game. I just think it's kind of fun to see how different countries sort of embrace and explore a sport that is so traditionally um, American, right? To say nothing of NFL Europe, but that's its own conversation.
It
Any
is
thoughts on this
injured
game?
Commanders and Dolphins. So I'm sorry Madrid. Sorry we couldn't send over a better game.
Yeah. And as part of the theming, the Dolphins, being aquatic, have to travel by boat. So um,
Mm.
they got themselves on a Carnival cruise liner the second their game against the Bills ended, and will be relaxing in paradise for a week until the game.
Is that real?
That is just such a massive joke. That
Yeah,
would
I was
be
like, that's a big joke from you. I realized they would have to practice and stuff, so that didn't make any sense at all. And when
that.
I thought about it
Imagine
for more than
imagine
one
you're an
second.
NFL football team, and the only place you have to practice is the gym on a Carnival cruise liner.
Right. Like,
Crazy.
well, they get like the whole boat to themselves, and then they get out on the deck, and that's where they kind of they kind of run, practice drills and stuff. Don't
I
miss
will
the
say,
throw, it's going in the ocean.
yeah, I will say I did a cruise a couple years ago. They have like a little putting green like
Yep,
at the
yep,
top of
yep.
the boat and like the decks and stuff. Could you design a boat to be equipped enough to do this?
You sure could
Yes.
design it.
If you're the home team, because the Dolphins are the home team in Madrid, and you have to go by boat, ridiculous. Um,
Yeah,
but I would say this was maybe of the international games I saw this year, this one was the most competitive, most back and forth, nice
for
offensive
sure.
explosions on both sides. And Jonathan
Overtime, right?
Taylor is,
Or am I
yeah,
making that
yeah,
up?
it did go to overtime.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so just electric all around. Fun one to watch.
For sure. Next, Jets, the mighty New York Football Jets, 27 a victory over the Browns 20, who managed to keep close every week, but they just can't win. Um, Interestingly enough, before this game was announced that Jets linebacker Quincy Williams, not to be confused with traded Jet Quinnen Williams, was benched due to underperforming, and they said he had been underperforming all season. But he had a very like mature response where he was like, "Obviously, I don't want to be benched, but I want to be out there. I want to earn my way back there, etc." So, former All-Pro player. So I was happy to see that kind of response from him. And then I have some game trivia for you, Jared. You ready?
I just
Jets.
before you bring up the trivia, I just really quickly want to mention Quincy Williams, also the brother of traded Quinnen Williams. So
Didn't know that.
your brother just got traded from the team and they're benching you for poor performance. I feel like one of those is enough to be a little upset. Both of
Fair.
those is enough to be pretty upset. And so to handle that with maturity, a lot of respect to Quincy for that.
Yeah. So in this game, Jets running back Brees Hall had a 42-yard catch. It was an awesome play. Who do you think was the highest receiver in this game, aside from it was Brees Hall, aside from Brees Hall, and how many yards do you think they had? Wide receivers,
I
tight
know that
ends,
the
another running back, etc.
I know that they had like under 140 or 170 on the game or something like that, of total offense or something ridiculous. Um, I've got a few guesses. Do I
Okay.
get a few guesses or do I just have to, all in
Yeah,
one?
yeah, just throw them out there. Throw them out.
I'm gonna start with AD Mitchell.
A.D. Mitchell did not receive a catch in this game.
Mm. Um,
That was a fair guess.
I'm trying to think of like because my first guess is like Mason Taylor, but that would be too logical.
Mason
Um,
Taylor was tied for the lead, but please continue naming. There's two people that were tied, and then one person that was 1 yard behind. So
is this gonna be like Alan Lazard?
Alan Lazard, he didn't receive a catch.
All right, then my guess is who's the other? And I caught some of this game. It'd have to be someone that you'd think I wouldn't really know. Is it Isaiah Davis in a big spot?
Isaiah Davis, only one catch for 1 yard. Didn't quite.
And he is the number two. No. Um, gosh,
Different Isaiah.
different Isaiah.
Yeah, I'd be
Um,
I'd be shocked if you knew who this was.
is it former Lions training camp legend, previously cut, then brought back to the roster by the Jets after a bad return game, wide receiver Isaiah Williams?
It is Isaiah Williams. Yeah, I didn't know he was a
Say no
Lion.
more,
So
baby.
there you go.
Oh,
He's tied with Mason Taylor, Jared. How many yards do you think these guys had to be the second behind Brees Hall, of course?
well, didn't you just say it was one less? Was it like 47, 41?
No, no. What? No,
I thought,
the person had one. The person you guessed had one less than these guys.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay. 48.
Great. So Brees Hall's 42-yard catch was the only catch he had. He was the leading receiver. Mason Taylor, one catch, 4 yards. Isaiah Williams, one catch, 4 yards. John Mechie the third, just traded there. One catch, 3 yards. Isaiah Davis, one catch, 1 yard. Garrett Wilson exited the game with injury, didn't get a catch. Um, they had 54 passing yards, 42 of which was that Brees Hall play. And they won this game by 7 points.
That's huge. And unsurprisingly, due to Isaiah Williams' contributions here, um, I wonder if they just traded Quinnen because they were getting too confused with the number of Williams on the team. Um,
Mm,
and so they just kind of needed to
could be.
you know, release the release valve a little bit on that. No, this is great. I believe they had both a punt and kick return touchdown, correct?
Just close the game. But let me pull it right back up. I know that a lot of ground game in this one. For Brees Hall, did have 80 plus rushing yards. It was just the offense was yuck. Yep, returned kickoff touchdown right after the Browns scored, and then Isaiah Williams had a punt return touchdown as well.
No excuse. Hey, Isaiah Williams. What I say?
Yeah,
Um, no excuse. No excuse for the Browns if you're holding the team to that few yards
tough.
offensively, clear special teams breakdowns, and good for the Jets. I like that the Jets are starting to win. I kind of hope they keep it going against, if they want to take out any NFC opponents the Lions may have, they are more than welcome to do so.
Mm,
Um, I kind of like that their wide receiver room's a bunch of kind of no-name guys. I know the comparisons to the Lions for the Jets are eternal, but I feel like it's never a bad time to give some younger guys some run. See if you've got anybody before you maybe start trying to rebuild this thing next year. Garrett Wilson exiting with that knee sprain will be out 3 to 4 weeks, so an opportunity for the John Mechie's, A.D. Mitchell's, Isaiah Williams of the world to audition for a role next year.
yeah. What a
Let's
yuck game.
yuck game, but
Talks
honestly,
for all the wrong reasons.
it was close. It was close, and there were some games we didn't think were going to be very close that turned close. But before we get too far into that, I would say probably the marquee matchup of the early window here: Patriots 28 at Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23 in a battle between two division leading darlings. Buccaneers hampered by injury, Patriots riding high on the arm of Drake May, and Patriots running back Tre'Man Henderson and wide receiver Kyle Williams are the first rookie teammates to each have a 50 plus yard touchdown in the same game since 2001. After the game, Tre'Man was interviewed and said, "Once I knew I was on Jared's bench, I felt it was time to pop off." So saw zero of those fantasy points from Tre'Man, but um, good for them to get some production out of a promising young running back they invested highly in, and caught the first half of this one. The Patriots and Bucks. This is one of those where they were both taking shots, and they called out on the broadcast the decision late in the first by Mike Vrabel to use second down at the goal line to burn clock exclusively, like not even really attempt to get it in, and then
Mm.
use those last two downs to score. So sort of like a tactical, hey, let's burn it down, but not stop the clock. Then we can use these last two downs to try to get it in. They do, um, and end up taking a game that I think is a nice add to the resume of a team that is making significant waves in the AFC, especially with the Bills stumbling against the Dolphins.
Yeah, Drake May continues to kind of do a, kind of a NFL MVP kind of run. Patriots are what, like 8-2 or something insane like that after the Bills lose to the Dolphins. They have a firm grasp on the division. It's interesting. I understand why they won this game. I understand why the Bucs lost this game with their injuries, but it's a little shocking.
The Buccaneers are beginning to look like the what could have been team to me, just in
Hmm.
terms of how competitive they looked, how dominant Baker's style of play was. Some wins come out of those sales, and obviously, you know, a loss to the Lions, loss to the Patriots this year. Not like, oh, their season's over, but I came into the season really believing the Buccaneers had a chance to be like bona fide top three in the conference. And I think, unfortunately, with their injuries, unless they can get healthy soon, that is slipping away from them. Granted, the rest of the division doing everything they can to make them feel better about it by stumbling over themselves and throwing banana peels on the floor just to trip over them. But um, yeah, I was excited for this matchup. It wasn't the most dynamic in the first half, and then I actually did switch to Jets Browns because it was competitive and we were curious. But um, yeah, two good teams. Patriots on their way up. Buccaneers maybe hitting a roadblock. We'll see if they can turn it around.
Yeah, when you have your top three offensive weapons out, Godwin, Evans, Bucky Irving, makes sense when you struggle a little bit, I think. Um, Next game to discuss. Bears 24 versus the Giants 20. This one had a lot of repercussions in it. Prior to the game, there was this report that came out. Bears wide receiver Rome Odunze that his father does not speak for him because his father is doing this thing where he posts on social media, basically, retweeting everything that's like Rome Odunze should get 1,500 targets every game because he had a couple of down games after their bye week, and he said basically my dad doesn't speak for me. I'm my own guy. I'm just doing what the team needs, etc. And he takes a lot of pride. I was reading this article in blocking as well. He thinks it's kind of an overlooked and underrated skill for receivers to have. I would agree, and he's like, I'm just helping us win, which is true. And then the game started. He immediately got targeted by Caleb Williams, and then they asked him about that after the game, and he said, "Thanks, Dad." Just thought that was kind of funny. Um, Anyways, results, other things happened in the game. Giants quarterback Jackson Dart exited after a big hit in the third quarter. He has scrambled a ton. I believe he had two rushing touchdowns in this game. And this is now his fourth time that he's been examined for a concussion. And he didn't start until week 4. So basically, in 6 weeks of NFL play, he has had four concussion examinations during the game because he does not slide typically and does not take the best care of himself out there on the field. This one does look like he might miss a game or two. We will see. Giants 0-4 in games on the road in which they're up by 10 plus points. People, of course, remember that Broncos game in which the Broncos scored like 33 points in the fourth quarter to come back and beat the Giants. This game, they had the lead going into the fourth as well. And yeah, all of that kind of led to a 2-8 record, which is surprising when you say 2-8 because it feels like the Giants have kind of overperformed this year. But 2-8 nonetheless. And their coach, Brian Daboll, was fired. Offensive coordinator Mike Kafka is going to be their interim head coach, their sixth coach since 2016. Sixth coach in 9 years is not great. Um, Obviously, I think Brian Daboll has kind of been on the hot seat for a while, but I do wonder, a quarterback that is oft injured and didn't start the season. Scattaboo, the running back that they drafted out for the season. Malik Neighbors out for the season. You kind of wonder, like, what else exactly were they supposed to do? Their schedule is absolutely brutal. They play a lot of good teams as well. Giving up leads in the fourth quarter is definitely an issue, and maybe that can lead back to your head coach, but I feel like he may get too much to blame. I'm not sure. What do you think, Mr. Jared?
Um, I wanted to watch this game. I wasn't able to end up watching all of it because I chose a different game to kind of give more of my time to besides the wheel game. When I was going back and kind of watching the condensed. So I skipped pieces of this game. I will say, in the second quarter, Dart got sacked and his helmet was coming off and he was colliding into people while he was taking that sack. And I couldn't tell whether they used a timeout to keep him on the field and get him evaluated, but didn't look like he was forced to come off, which I thought was kind of insane.
Yeah.
Um, Again, the way they cut the condensed games, I didn't get a ton of explanation.
I do believe the actual concussion scare was a Dayball call. I think Dayball was like, he doesn't look right. We need to examine him. It wasn't like from the top or anything. So he was like, he's the one that made the observation himself.
He got a lot of roasting. It was funny because I listened to Heed the Call record on Sunday night, and they were like, "Man, this Dayball guy should really get the boot. He's just not got it, whatever." After I had already learned that he'd been fired, and they were criticizing his decision to kick a field goal up seven at like the half-yard line, and I was like, "Oh, whatever." And then I was watching it in game, and I was like, "Oh man, you gotta go, you gotta go." It wasn't,
Half yard line not going for it is tough.
no, I couldn't remember like, oh, where in the fourth down, whatever. No, they were like right there. And they made the kick, but there was a penalty on the Bears that would have given them half the distance from that like half yard line. I mean, Russell Wilson could just like stumble forward and get it. Like it was
Right.
so on a drive too where Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary both had electric run plays. Like incredibly dynamic. They gashed them all the way down the field. And okay, maybe it would have been too obvious. Maybe. But you're so close. And Olsen made a good point on the call. He was like, was it really worth giving up all that field position for 3 points? Because the Bears would have been at the half-yard line to start their drive, right? They still would have been down seven, those Bears. It's not like you need three to take the lead. You have the lead. So um, I think I also saw a stat that was something like, they're the first team or one of the first teams to give up, multiple 10 plus point leads in the last 6 minutes of a game in a season or something like that. You can't close games and you're not giving a lift to a team whose quarterback is giving you reason to hope and whose defense is loaded on the defensive line, which I feel like should be enough to get something going defensively. Thus ends Dable's term, I suppose. I don't totally disagree with the call.
Remember the 9-8 coach of the year, Brian Daboll? Oh, how far we've fallen.
Yeah, good thing they gave that ginormous contract to Daniel Jones after that. I have a trivia question for you.
Oh no. Okay.
Which Chicago Bears defender racked up 2 sacks and a forced fumble in this game?
It's a player I know.
Oh yeah,
Oh geez, who's on the Bears? Like who? The Bears defense is not something I've paid a ton of attention to. Isn't like, am I crazy for trying to remember that Montez Sweat is a Bear? Is that wrong? Is that
he is a
entirely
Bear. He
okay?
did not put up those numbers.
I'm like, who am I thinking of? Roquan's a Raven now. He's not a Bear anymore.
Correct.
Uh, it's like an edge rusher linebacker type, I would assume.
It is not an edge rusher linebacker type.
Is it Kevin Byard?
Wrong safety, baby.
Oh man, wait, I don't know who the other safety is.
Oh, you do.
Uh, do I know? I'm like, do I know him for being a Bear?
You know him for being on multiple teams this year.
Oh no,
CJ
Chauncey
Gardner
Gardner.
Johnson, baby.
Oh
Um,
man,
he forced the fumble and I didn't realize it was him.
that's
And they're like, oh,
hilarious.
CJ Gardner Johnson. I was like, that's crazy. And then I was skipping ahead to later in the game and they got a sack. And it was like, he just was completely unblocked and he just rammed into him and sacked him. They're like, second of the game. And I was like, second of the game for CJ Gardner Johnson? I went and checked his box score right now. Yeah, 2 sacks, forced fumble
I totally
for
forgot he
CJ.
signed
Yeah.
there.
I was like, you're either gonna guess immediately or you're gonna have no idea, and you didn't know. And I was like, all right, great, good content here,
Yeah, yeah.
hilarious. There were a couple times in
What
this
a
game
legend.
where Williams missed. I think it was Odunze on like where he just put it a little too far out in front of him.
Yeah.
Um, and the fact that they couldn't really start the car until 6 minutes to go is a little disappointing. But I'm still skeptical of Chicago being like a legit playoff contender this season. But could they give us a fun, wild card weekend matchup? I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they've looked electric. I love the Ben Johnson post game speeches. Have you seen those in the locker room?
I'm not.
He gets way too hype. He's like, this many wins. He's like freaking out in there.
Thanos
Um,
collecting the Infinity Stones.
yeah, it's kind of fun. Something
Um,
else that was fun to watch. Jared.
yeah, Texans, Jaguars. The Jaguars steamrolled the Texans. They were dominant from start to finish of the third quarter. This game looked sealed, done, and dusted. Texans 36, Jaguars 29. And this was without CJ Stroud, who was concussed. Texans legend Davis Mills takes the start. No Brian Thomas, who was out with a high ankle sprain. We got confirmation after the game this week. We heard there will be no Travis Hunter for the rest of the season, but the Jaguars were in control. How much in control? Well, this game started the fourth quarter with Jags 29, Texans 10. And again, that means 26-0 on the Jags in the fourth quarter, which, just to confirm, is crazy. And worth noting that the Jaguars trying to make a last Hail Mary attempt, which you shouldn't have to do when you're up 19 at the start of the fourth quarter. Um, the Texans force the turnover and rumble into the end zone for those last six. So um, brutal collapse for
So
the
it was tied,
Jaguars. No, it
and
was
they.
30 to 29,
Oh, I see.
and they had to make that, and then it was a walk-off touchdown. They didn't
Got
bother
it,
with the
got it.
extra point because it wasn't a touchdown.
Right.
But just
They
sad.
got pick six on a Hail Mary.
It may have been a forced fumble, actually.
I was like, how does that even happen?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I don't. It was either that or maybe they were attempting like an. I don't think they were attempting a
Well,
lateral. They would have attempted. Yeah, it
yeah,
must
yeah,
have
that's
just
what I
been
was
like
gonna
a
say.
batted it out of his hand and then picked it
Let me
up
pull up the
and
highlights.
um low lights for the Jags. Jags look illegitimate. If you're leading by 19 and you fumble that bag, and I'm gonna knock on wood because I am worried that this isn't wood. Does I don't have wood near me. I'll knock on cardboard. Um, it just feels like it's disqualifying for your season. And the Jaguars dropping this game, getting embarrassed in London, just not good results for a team that had a ton of momentum after beating the Chiefs. And it's possible that as soon as the temperature goes below 80 degrees in Jacksonville, the Jaguars disappear.
Is that just the Florida curse? Is that how it works?
Well, maybe there's like a maximum combined wins between the Jags, Dolphins, and Bucks, and the Bucks are soaking most of those up or something.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
brutal.
looking at the play, by the way. Trevor Lawrence gets hit by Will Anderson Jr., somebody I had as DPOY, as he's trying to kind of scramble and throw this ball, and it kind of just flops out of his hand right into a defensive tackle's arms, and he just runs it back in for six.
I got a question for you. I was looking something
Sure.
up out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Jacksonville, Florida. Where do you think it's
Yeah.
ranked in the population of cities in the United States? Like, where do you think it's ranked?
Oh, geez. Well, here's some things I do know. I know New York is number one. I know LA is number two. I know Chicago's number three. And I know Houston's number four. I know the top four. I got it
Yep.
locked down. After that, it's an absolute question mark. But if you're asking me this question, it must be pretty high. I'll say number eight.
The number 10,
Wow,
which
it's pretty high.
here's something genuinely interesting to me. Of these top 10 cities, first off, Phoenix is number 5.
Wow.
Um, Interesting. Um, and of these top 10, two of them don't have football teams. One of them did, San Diego. The other, San Antonio. both without a football team.
Mm.
And I get it. Those states have teams, and a lot of these where like the one of the big cities doesn't have one. It's like, oh, well, they're, whatever, they have them in other spots. But you look at somewhere like Oklahoma City's number 20. You look at also El Paso's number 23. I was looking this up because I was thinking, really,
Shocking.
Jacksonville is a football team? Like of all the cities, right? St. Louis doesn't get a team.
And you're like, it's number 10.
It's number 10. It's number 10. I found that, I believe, the most populous city in Florida. So not even like,
Nobody goes to
Miami. What are
Jacksonville,
we
so
up
who
to?
knows?
Tampa Bay is looking sus at this point. Miami's number
Hmm.
42. Yeah, Tampa's 49. So interesting. Sorry, I know that's a total diversion. It just really caught my brain and then it surprised me. Just like the Jaguars were surprised in the fourth quarter of this game by their collapse. Once again, I have to
My
say
goat,
it.
Jacoby Myers, didn't do enough after being traded there.
Yeah, Jacoby Myers, like, more like
Hmm.
Janobi Myers.
There it
Um,
is.
there it
Thanks.
is. And this was
That
their
was horrible,
backup.
just like the games we're about
Hey,
to.
we talked about our pop games. We're going to talk about our stop games. We're going to do it a little bit faster. We want to move through these contests. I was super excited to watch this one. And then unfortunately, some life got in the way, so I wasn't able to pay attention to a contest that fortunately ended
Lucky
up
you.
being about as far. I'm sorry.
I said, lucky you. You didn't get to
Lucky
watch it.
me. I was gonna say I had my eyes on it, but circumstance kept me from watching what turned out to be an absolute dud. Eagles 10, Packers 7. Damon, tell us about this woe that was football.
Man, it was ugly to watch. And it's one of those things where, like, I know 10 to 7, yes, it's low scoring. I'm not saying, like, oh man, it wasn't this offensive showdown, so therefore it was boring. But it wasn't like good defense necessarily. It was just really bad offense. It was like constant three and outs from both sides, not because of some great defensive stop or a big sack or anything like that. It was just like a, a missed pass, or we ran the ball for 3 yards multiple times and then we missed a pass. It was just like ew for a lot of this game. You are ready to say something before I continue.
No, 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 no.
Oh, it
Yeah,
looked
it was
like you
0-0
were
at half, right?
excited.
Suffer.
Yeah, it was horrible. Um, and then in the second half, things kind of finally started getting going. We had a rushing touchdown from Josh Jacobs. I don't even remember how the Eagles scored. I was watching the whole game. I don't
Oh,
know who scored a
I actually
touchdown.
did catch this. It was a Devonta Smith deep pass, I thought.
Great, probably. Um, but everyone looked pedestrian. Both offenses looked pedestrian. The defenses kind of looked pedestrian. I think people will mistakenly think this was a superb defensive performance, but it wasn't. It was just kind of ill all the way around. Including in the injury front, as Packer center Elton Jenkins suffered a fracture in his lower left leg. He's going to be out for the season, unfortunately. They also carted Eagles offensive lineman Lane Johnson out during this game, but I'm not sure on his status. I haven't heard a report after the fact.
I saw him standing on the sideline. Not sure if he's healthy or not. Obviously, I've got eyes on it because of the Eagles' opponent this coming week.
Hmm.
I had this one on mute because I was legally consuming the official National Football League product from a website that happened to occasionally cut out the sound. Um, and so I had it like I had eyes on it. And yeah, just I had thought I'd heard somewhere someone being like, yeah, defensive bout, and I was like, man, everything I saw just looked like two anemic teams. And so I'm glad
Hmm.
you can kind of give us some confirmation there. Of note, actually, speaking of a player that played for both these teams, Jair Alexander traded to the Eagles from the Ravens, apparently contemplating a departure from football after that trade. The Eagles, so losing a little defensive back depth that they just sought to acquire in an effort to shore their team up. Um,
How bad does that have to
yeah,
be after 1 week? They're like, yeah, maybe I'm just done.
yeah,
I don't
man, I don't know.
know.
Well, I mean, Zadarius Smith shined to the Eagles and was like, "I'm good." So I don't know if it's
Listen,
that.
maybe
Maybe he
the
just
way they do things over there is a little weird, I guess.
maybe he's just realizing, oh, I'm not going to be like at the top of the depth chart, and that kind of bums me out. Which is
Right.
no judgment, like fine, but that's maybe it's a CJ Gardner Johnson situation.
They have the
Either way,
Great White Hope.
is that how they're describing? I thought that was like Austin Reeves or something. Who's
I
the
don't
Great
know.
White Hope in
I've
there?
heard somebody call Cooper DeJean that. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah. I Interesting. Yeah, I mean they have Cooper. I guess he's more of a slot guy. They're looking for that number two, go opposite of
Hmm
Quinyon Mitchell, and then I know Mitchell's been kind of banged up this year. Let's move on to
The,
another riveting.
yes, we must point out it was the end of the week 10-7 primetime slugfest. This one was the beginning of the week 10-7 primetime. Go ahead.
Yeah, slugfest. Emphasis on the slug.
Yeah,
Ugh.
for sure.
Broncos 10, Raiders 7. Um, that put the offensive in offensive, and Broncos linebacker Alex Singleton did reveal he had a testicular tumor removed the day after the game. He thought it was worth doing to have others pay attention to their bodies more closely. I know in the NBA, is it like Nicola? Who in the NBA there was a similar story, right?
Um, for testicular cancer, oh yeah,
I thought
Nikola
so.
Topic. Yeah, rookie on the Thunder. Dom and I haven't potted in 16 weeks, so I totally forgot about that, but I did write it down somewhere.
I couldn't remember if it was. I know it wasn't Jokic, but I know there's like a Nikola Jovic, and then there's a Nikola
Correct.
Topic, right? And I was like, I
Correct.
think it's Topic, but it could be Jovic.
It was
Anyway,
Topic. Nailed it.
uh, it's I don't know. I think Nicola's a fun name. Nicola.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, to return to the importance of this, I think it's always very cool, as we've talked about before, when players put transparency with their health forward. We see it maybe a little bit more often discussed as transparency with mental health, but especially with something like a testicular tumor, which is in a part of the body we want to discuss less often out in the open, might be viewed as a little embarrassing by some. I think it's courageous and necessary and valuable to
And he
open
played a
that
football
dialogue.
game with it.
Yeah, which
It's
is
insane.
impressive. And yeah, a football game that ultimately was boring as dirt. Broncos and Raiders could not get anything going. Not a ton of electric defensive play. It was just miss. Oh, there was a turnover. Didn't take advantage of it. That sounds about right. Miss, miss, miss. Raiders miss a late field goal to potentially tie this game and send it to overtime, which would have been hilarious. Instead, we limp to the finish of a low scoring,
Can the
low affair.
Broncos like beat a team convincingly? They're also like 8-2, but all of their wins are like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they definitely are like, if they don't bring their A game and their opponent chooses to bring their A game, they could easily lose like 23-7 and then we never think about them again, right? Kind of like a better version of the Bears in that way, to me, where it's like, man, one bad day, and it all comes crumbling down.
Yeah.
So, worth keeping an eye on. What about our next game, Damon? I want you to introduce this one because I have a lot to say about it.
Our next game, Saints 17 at Panthers 7. Tyler Shuck, baby, week number 2, I believe, as the starter against Rico Dowdle's mighty Panthers. I gotta be real with you, Jared. I didn't keep a close eye on this one. It wasn't on my radar too much. So what do you gotta tell me?
Well, I said that I watched a couple games and I didn't have time for Bears Giants. It's because I had to watch my Saints and Panthers rumble, baby. Um,
Awesome.
I don't know why this one called to me. I have something with the NFC South. Um,
You've been a little sneaky Panthers fan all year, really.
a little bit. I think what was important for this for me is I'd seen most of the Falcons game, and the Falcons and Panthers are these like bizarro teams that beat teams they shouldn't and lose to teams they don't. And I wanted the other side
Hmm
of the data point. I wanted to know for sure, was this the Saints playing the game of the year or the Panthers just being bad? And then a thought formed in my mind. I have a theory. Okay. And I was
hmm
thinking about it, and it got funnier in my head the more I thought about it.
hmm
The NBA had a
That's a
recent
good sign.
bribery scandal. Okay. I think the
True.
Falcons and the Panthers had a vibery scandal. Okay.
Oh,
I think the Falcons and the Panthers co-conspired, and they said, listen, we're going to win some games we shouldn't this year, but we don't want our fans to know whether they should hope in us or not. We want them to be confused. We're amused by them being confused. So here's the plan. Panthers, you're going to destroy us by 30 in like week 5. But we've already looked good in a couple games, us, the Falcons. And then you'll win another random game against the Packers. You'll be hovering around 500, and so will we. We're going to beat the Bills, and we're going to steamroll the Vikings, but we're also going to roll over against Miami. And with us giving you a win you're not supposed to have, and you giving us a loss we're not supposed to have,
Mm-hmm,
everyone's just going to
mm-hmm,
not know what to do with us for the entire season. Only explanation I have for what these teams are doing. Because if the Falcons beat the Panthers, we'd probably look at these teams and go, oh, okay. The Falcons are losing some close ones, but they're beating up on some of the teams they're supposed to. And, oh, the Panthers got lucky against the Packers, but, they just still haven't quite turned that next gear. But instead, we have to look at this as a letdown for the Panthers. Shuck looked good in this game. He was slinging it around. They let him throw the ball further than 2 yards downfield. Um, granted, that typically meant 4 to 6 yards downfield, but they relied on him to keep this offense moving. A really weird rule that I'd totally forgotten they'd mentioned on HTC until I was watching the game. They blocked a field goal of the Panthers. The Saints did, but
mm.
then the Panthers recovered it. And
Uh-huh.
so they got the ball and got first down because if you block it past the line of scrimmage, then it's a live ball. And so I guess because it the ball moved past the line of scrimmage and then got blocked, it was live, and then the Saints didn't recover, so the Panthers got the ball.
Kind of like if you muff a punt.
Yeah, but
Interesting.
yeah, I
Huh.
remembered there being, and they talked about this on the podcast, but I have also seen this clip of like the famous Dallas Miami like snow game where they block a field goal to end it, and then like the Cowboys guy touches it, and then the Dolphin takes it and runs it in, and the Dolphins win the game or whatever. Um, it does matter. I just think it's a really dumb rule to like be totally punished for not recovering a ball you managed to smack out of the air with your hands back towards the people who kicked it. Like, who do you think is going to recover that ball? Um,
Right.
if you wanted to make a really bizarre rule where like, okay, it's a live ball, which allows the opposing team to recover but not score with it, and they can like let's say the kicker grabs it, no one tackles him, he can go down to the one and take a knee, and then you have to start at the one. Like, sure, if you want that stupid rule, fine, but crazy. Panthers turned the ball over anyway, it didn't matter. Um, Saints just were kind of humming. They had some nice offensive explosion. One of their field goals came in a goal to go situation where they just weren't able to convert. So their offense was moving. They seemed reluctant to kick. They opted to go for it on fourth instead of take some long field goals. But Saints offense was moving. Panthers offense was lame, and that's all I have to say about this mediocre a game.
Nice. All I'll add is that Chris Olave got 1,000 targets, and that's cool. Shout
Yeah,
out Chris Olave.
Chris Olave, a real one. I guess not to blame Rashid Shaheed, but I guess trading him away really awakened the Saints to the two-win juggernaut they are.
Yeah, to the 17 points they scored. Not exactly a mighty total. Um, the Ravens continue to click in Lamar Jackson's return, 27 points on the Vikings, who had 19. And yeah, not a ton like this. Basically, this game, if I had to look at it from the beginning of the season, maybe the Ravens have like another touchdown. But like this went how I kind of expected it to go. JJ doesn't look great still. It doesn't look like he kind of has a connection with the receivers rather. Pretty mediocre kind of passing stats. Still using his legs and such like that, but it just doesn't look like the offense is kind of has kind of found its footing with him as the signal caller there. And the Ravens continue to get healthy and continue to put pressure on that Steelers team, who barely holds the division lead.
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch this one super close, but I I'll honestly give props to the Vikings. The fact that they were in this game against a Ravens team that I think their talent profile exceeds the Vikings talent profile right now goes to show that their win against the Lions was maybe not totally a fluke, but the Steelers continue to slide down the charts and are really giving the Ravens every possible chance.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, I'm really excited to talk about this next game. There was a lot of worry um that due to the government shutdown, they weren't able to get a ton of like the military accoutrement they wanted to bring to the NFL games as part of the Salute to Service program, but fortunately, they were able to bring a ton of military grade equipment to this game as part of the Salute to Service matchup, which the Seahawks used to destroy the Cardinals seismically in a 44-22 mega giga uber haha silly fun time nonsense chuckles blowout that was so far from close that if the Cardinals had conceded in the second quarter, I think the league would have understood. If I'm not mistaken, this was 35 to nothing in the second quarter.
Yeah, it was ugly. It was ugly, ugly, ugly. The Seahawks continue to click on offense. My Seahawks, who I had tied with both the Rams and 49ers in the NFC West, all at like 12 and 5 or something like that.
It's looking like an elite prediction, to be honest. Don't mean to poke too much fun at the Cardinals, but I think the wheels have come off. Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray was placed on IR prior to the game. Speculation, is this a shadow benching? Is this, it's a lost season, so why injure the guy? Who knows?
Is
Um,
has he played his last game for the Cardinal?
I wouldn't be shocked. I wonder if, I don't know if you recall Russell Wilson kind of getting benched to avoid the Broncos ever having to pay his injury guarantees when they were ready to cut him a few years ago. I almost
Hmm.
wonder if they're trying to, I don't know what his contract situation looks like, but
No
if he has
clue.
any injury guarantees, maybe this is a way to say, hey, we're just going to keep you off the field so you can't injure yourself in a way that requires us to pay you more money than we want to. Zay Jones injured his Achilles, Cardinals wide receiver during this game. And Seahawks wideout Jackson Smith and Jigba joined Antonio Brown and Michael Irvin as the only players in NFL history with 75 plus yards in their first 9 games of a season. Jackson Smith and Jigba is a dog and has definitely entered the conversation as a top five receiver in this league, especially with um, guys like Malik Neighbors not available to play this year, and then Brian Thomas Jr. taking a big step back. Definitely a few spots open in the upper end of the receiver pantheon, and Smith and Jigba has staked his claim, no doubt.
Yeah, I've sung his praises all year, and I won't do it some more. And I told everyone this was going to happen, and no one believed me. Don't look at all my predictions because they're not all right. I will only talk about the ones that are extremely right so far.
That's wisely done. Speaking of wisdom, please lend us your wisdom to your analysis of the next game.
Yes, how about this? Two games at the afternoon slot with 44-22 end results as the Lions beat the Commanders 44 to 22. We mentioned the Trump thing earlier. Also, this got a little bit of kind of note around the league that Lions head coach Dan Campbell took over play calling duties for this game and will so going forward from offensive coordinator John Morton. Jared, as the Lions fan on the pod, the more experienced Lions fan, do you what do you think the reason for this was?
Um, Dan's swinging. I mean, I think honestly because he's Dan Campbell's perceived as a manager, head coach, um, and I think is ignored as an offensive mind. Morton, his play calling wasn't creating advantages for us in the way that I think we as fans were used to seeing over the last few years. Um, Point totals down, and anemic's the wrong word, but there was a lot made in a lot of the commentary and stuff I was reading about how Jameer Gibbs was kind of forced into pass pro against the Vikings way too often. Um, there's a chance Campbell is doing this to demonstrate to Morton how the offense should be called. I think more likely is that Campbell will call the plays for this team for the rest of the season. There's a chance Morton is retained as OC and just moves out of the play calling side of OC. But Campbell said after the game too, like, I know what I want. Like I that's in my head. And people can't always read my mind. And, I figured I should just, I know what I want, so I'll just go do it. And move people into other spots and kind of emphasize like, people have strengths. Maybe their strength isn't play calling, maybe it's something else. But the offense, granted against a very weak defense, looked electric, putting the ball in everybody's
Looked
hands
like the old Ben
frequently.
Johnson offense.
It was Hey, maybe you mean the Dan Campbell offense.
Right.
Maybe that dialogue will open again, which would be nice. Also, looks great in glasses. Props to Dan for that.
Mm-hmm. Wear glasses pro pot. I'll mention this too with the offense. You mentioned Gibbs. JMO got the ball a lot in this game, and that was nice to see using his speed in the open field and things like that. So he has not been utilized really much at all this season after that extension in the offseason. So glad to see him get a little more run as well. On the other
I
side of the ball, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just briefly on the Lions offense. I feel like our offense is at our best when we're able to shift the weight of who's defining our offensive success throughout a game. One drive it's one guy, another drive it's another. And as the defense is forced to account for all of these things, eventually they just can't cover everyone. And
Right.
so Williams has a quiet first half, explodes in the second half, right? You can't give him all your attention in the first half, or maybe you try to, then you got to shift it to Gibbs, maybe you got to load the box. Then the fastest guy in the field is burning you from behind. So just that feels textbook to how the Lions play. Wanted to say that before you take us through the other side. Go ahead.
Grossly similar to how I was kind of describing the Dolphins earlier. But I guess Achane and Gibbs, skill set wise are somewhat similar, and Waddle and JMO are somewhat similar, so that makes sense. Um, Anyways, other side, Commanders head coach Dan Quinn after the game said he's going to take on defensive play calling duties after the Lions dropped 44 points on them. And he used to be a defensive coordinator, so I mean that makes sense. That is kind of his area of expertise. And Deron Payne, Commanders defensive tackle, suspended for punching Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't remember what the reason was, but I did watch the punch happen, and I was like, oh, okay, that was just out of nowhere as they were kind of walking off the field, basically. He tried to appeal the suspension, was denied, so he will not be going to Madrid.
Um, they claimed after the game that St. Brown swung at him. They also Amon-Ra said, "Yeah, I might have said something as I was walking by him." The footage came out today. Amon-Ra definitely did hit him.
Nice.
Will he be held accountable? I don't know, but um, either way, I think yeah, there was a bit of a meltdown from the Commanders' defense in the second half as the Lions were clearly running all over him there. Jahmyr Gibbs, I believe, now is the fifth most touchdowns under age 24 of any running back, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Wowzers.
yeah, he's just like so elite,
Hmm.
and continues to play at a level that's unmatched. Rich Eisen mentioned, by the way, he will not turn 24 for the rest, or sorry, yeah, he's not getting a year older until after this season. So he is very likely going to sprint past. Knock on knock on wood here.
Cardboard. Oh,
Knock on. I found some wood. He's not going to turn 24 until after this season ends. And so, in all likelihood, he's got a very strong chance of passing that record. Um, and that's worth noting. Last game worth mentioning here Sunday night football. Chargers 25, Steelers 10. Steelers looked asleep at the wheel. Chargers did more than enough, even if they maybe, I don't recall them having the most explosive offensive game, but the Steelers just were not able to do enough. Steelers corner Darius Slay left with a concussion and signed former Chargers corner Asante Samuel Jr. Post his spinal fusion surgery. Chargers wide receiver Keenan Allen passed Antonio Gates to become the Chargers all-time reception leader with 956, which was the highlight of the night for sure. Um, I want to say
was
you
on
only
this
needed a
really
couple.
ugly pass too.
Yeah, the like little pop pass where they just like
Yeah.
threw it up to him, and Gates was there. Really cool moment.
Yeah.
Emphasized heavily on the broadcast. The game was well in hand, but great way to get on the record, celebrate the moment with
He
Gates
like
there.
did nothing in the rest of the game. It was funny.
Yeah, literally the most interesting thing about this game was that moment. I don't think anything about the gameplay inspired much in the way of heated discussion.
Yeah. I was gonna say, oh, Darius Slay leaving with a concussion. Hope he's, Lions legend. Hope he's all right. And the Steelers sending Asante Samuel Jr., making my Minka for Jalen trade take look pretty good. So, I'm okay with that. With the Steelers secondary faltering yet again.
Yeah, they did that for you.
Like,
Um,
and Minka had either a forced fumble or a fumble recovery in that game against the Bills too.
Well, hey, um, these
Woo.
Steelers are falling apart, but maybe the Dolphins will take their place and make you look genius.
Yeah, no, that won't happen. But anyways,
Yeah. Speaking of genius, as my voice falters, I think it'd be smart for us to move on to the Week 11 preview, and we're going to spin the wheel. Colts and Saints on bye. Let's do this.
spin that wheel. I don't know why I felt game showy. Got 11 teams on here. I believe neither of us have gotten the Colts yet, if I'm not mistaken. So that is the 12th team that is missing since they are on bye.
Sounds right.
Here we go. There's
Who's
Jared
first?
first here.
All right.
I always swap them. Hey, look at that. Little hometown love for Jared.
I thought I might get the Titans. There was the sick part of me who was like, bring me my Titans. Not my Titans, but bring me the community from whence I hails, Titans. Uh, hey, this is awesome. They're playing the
Playing
oh
the
my gosh, they were on by
Texans.
last week. I scrolled down
Hosting
way too far.
hosting the Texans.
Titans, Texans. All right. Hey, Lions Sunday night game, so I'll have all the runway in the world to sit and savor a Texans Titans duel.
A divisional
Uh,
bout.
this game just screams too much sunlight on the field, CBS.
Yeah.
Can't wait to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Chimere DK is gonna pop off for you, don't worry.
Who's the guy? The other guy? I can't remember his name.
I like Io Manor.
Thank you. Oh, two elite teams for us this week.
Hey, the New York Giants, who might be down their quarterback in Jackson Dart and are already down their head coach and are already down their running back and are already down their wide receiver. So that's fun. This week they play the Packers. Yuck. Um, who the Packers, I mean, after losing to the Eagles, they lost to the Panthers the week before. So like this team kind of needs a get right game. And the Giants are certainly a team that will offer that to you, although I would argue that the best part of their team right now is certainly their defense. So perhaps their defense can make something happen in this game. This is kind of interesting because the Titans are your hometown team because you're from Tennessee, but the Giants were like I've talked about it before, kind of one of my favorite teams when I was younger because they beat the Patriots, and that made me happy. So kind of interesting, young throwback week for us here.
Whatever the results, I'm sure that game will be Kafka-esque.
It will
Uh,
it will have some Kafka in it, I believe. I'm excited. I hope Jackson plays. If not, I have to watch Russell Wilson play football, which isn't fun. Um, but hopefully that's not what happens.
Packers are not playing like a team where you can just walk past this game for sure. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of exciting in that respect. Speaking of Damon, I think you get first pick. What else looks exciting this
Oh,
week?
let's take a gander. Oh, brother, I looked at it and I can't take my eyes off of it immediately. I was looking in order. Panthers at Falcons 30-0 last time. And Falcons keep losing these random games and remember they beat the Bills and the Panthers lose to the Saints. Like both you mentioned it, both of these teams just lose games they absolutely shouldn't lose and sometimes win games they shouldn't win. And they can't both do it this week. So that'll be kind of fun to see. Two of the most confusing teams I think we've talked about in the NFL because they've just been up and down and up and down.
That's the Vibery at work. Here's my prediction for this game.
Okay.
It's going to go into overtime, 15-15, and everyone's going to go, "Oh my gosh, they're just splitting the score from last time." And then they're going to somehow both ruin that by both kicking overtime field goals. The game will end 18-18 tie. Um,
There is no universe where it's 18-18 tie. And if it happens, I'll give you all of my life savings.
okay. I can't
I don't
wait.
have any life savings, so haha.
I kind of knew that and was going to make that joke, and I was like, not my joke, not my joke to make. Glad you made it.
Yeah, just gonna call
Yeah,
me out like that. That'd be crazy, man.
it is a little wild that your eyes looked over these games and went, you know what's the heater?
That
Um,
it's not the game itself, It's the potential chaos that could occur from said game.
I probably would have taken it last if it was still there, so fair enough. I'll grab one. I'll just knock out the homer thing real fast. Lions at Eagles, Sunday night football primetime matchup. This one matters a lot to me. When I moved to Austin, uh, the day I drove in from Texarkana, I was listening to the Lions on the radio, and it was year two, the Dan Campbell era, week one. It was Eagles Lions, and it was close. It was high scoring, both teams in the 30s. We weren't able to pull it out, but I have such fond memories of starting what has turned out to be, a massive chapter of my life. Probably, at this point, arguably one of the defining chapters, if not the defining chapter of my life. And I don't believe they played since.
Mm.
So, unless I'm mistaken, which is possible.
A
Either
lot of
way,
people thought the NFC Championship last year would be this matchup.
yeah. And it's got me excited. Eagles didn't look terribly overpowering this this last game, but that doesn't mean I'm going to look past them. Of course, very talented team, loaded team. I think it's going to be a fun matchup. I think we're going to see week two of Dan Campbell play calling. Excited to see how this experiment continues. Experiment's kind of loose because I think Dan could have called all along, but just excited for that, for personal and for football reasons. I'll pass the baton to you.
Yeah, I'll keep it in the NFC North, Bears and Vikings. I just think if the Bears are going to be a real deal wild card team, as they've looked over the past 3 weeks or so, they will need to win on the road in this divisional matchup. If the Vikings don't want to lose their season entirely and kind of stay afloat with JJ under center, they need to win this matchup. So I think it's an important game for both teams to kind of prove what they're trying to accomplish this season. I do think the Bears will win on the road, but um, I've been surprised before. Didn't the Vikings beat them with JJ's first start or whatever?
Yes, that was JJ had this
Yeah,
crazy fourth quarter, and then
yeah,
all hail JJ, whatever. Um, I imagine the Bears will be playing motivated in that game.
for sure.
I'll grab a game that could decide one of the top two or three seeds in the NFC, and that is Seahawks at Rams.
Yeah,
These two divisional rivals are duking it out right at the top of the standings. And obviously, only one can win their division, get the home field advantage in the playoffs there for a period. I'm not going to say that it's for the top seed in the NFC. I think there's too many other good teams in the NFC to say that for sure. Um, However, certainly this is likely going to be a battle for top two, maybe top three seed, depending on who comes out of the NFC East and North. Really excited to see two electric teams that have been dominant the last few weeks square off against each other, and hopefully we can get these two teams into a close matchup. Especially because the Seahawks, yes, are a good team, but I think the Rams, as currently constructed, have more experience battling for high leverage contests. Seahawks are getting used to getting good again. And it's not to say that they won't be able to pull this game out. They certainly can. They've pulled out tight ones before this season, but just excited for two great teams to play each other.
yeah. This is getting my patent pending official game of the week from Damon. That one seems like it'll be a lot of fun.
The Dame of the Week, would you say?
The Dame of the Week. That's good. New segment, Dame of the Week. Um, Not a segment, I'll just say it whenever that's the game that I think
Yeah.
is that. I'll go ahead here and take a Buccaneers at Bills because I think 2 weeks ago, if you asked me, I would have said, of course the Bills are going to win. They just lost by 17 points to the Dolphins. So anything is possible. And the Buccaneers just lost to division rival of the Bills, the Patriots. So I'm not sure. I think the wide receiver injuries, really offensive injuries all around the Buck side, paired with what I saw from this secondary against the Dolphins of all teams, leaves an interesting matchup to be had. Kind of like when the Bucks went against us, and it was like, oh, they don't have receivers and we don't have corners. It's kind of a similar thing that I think could happen here. And are the Bills going to kind of come back after a very disappointing loss to the Dolphins and show that they are, in fact, kind of that top three AFC team that people thought they were coming into this season?
Yeah. It's a great one. Totally skipped over it, but you're absolutely right. Nice matchup there. I'll call out one more, and then if you have any more pop off.
Nope.
Chiefs, Broncos.
Yep.
This divisional matchup matters because the Chiefs have a winning pedigree and the Broncos have a lead on them in the division. And um, another loss for the Chiefs, especially against a divisional opponent with such a lead, might put the division darn near out of reach. I still think the Chiefs will make the playoffs. Either way, I think the wild card race in the AFC is weak enough, but um, both the Broncos and Chargers holding a divisional lead on the Chiefs. This would be a huge game for them to catch up. If they can't catch up, then I think we are looking at an AFC West in someone else's hands potentially for the first time. Honestly, and as long as I can remember. Again, Chiefs 5-4, Broncos 8-2, so they have a sizable lead in the win column over the Chiefs. The Chargers at 7-3 right there. So Chiefs falling to 5-5, Broncos up to 9-2. It's going to be hard to come back from as long as the Broncos can keep pulling out close games.
Let's go Broncos. Yeah, that was the last one I was going to point out. I'll take the first week one-liner game here, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Jets at Patriots, Thursday night football. For the first time in NFL history, a team has won two consecutive games by having more special teams yards than offensive yards. Jets. Jets. I don't think they'll win, but it would be funny.
Um, I think Jets stands for just exclusively touchdowns on special teams.
There you go. Great.
Uh,
Excellent by you.
no, I think that's a great that's I like the chant. I like the Jets chant. I think it's underrated. That's a good one. Okay. I've been trying to cook because I feel like this is such fertile ground, but I don't know if I came out with something worthwhile. Commanders, Dolphins, Madrid, or like Madrid for this game couldn't be higher. Yikes. Uh,
Can't believe they
so
had to take a boat there. I will
yeah,
go.
Commanders, Dolphins, one by air, the other by sea, neither by more than three, in a highly scoring defense absent matchup.
Yeah, that was a nice little rhyme you did there. I appreciated that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Chargers at Jaguars. Which super tall, handsome white quarterback will take the W?
Did you say Packers Giants?
I said Chargers at Jaguars. Did I not?
Oh, sorry. I forgot that was your wheel game, and I was
That's my wheel game.
wow, I didn't know that about Jordan Love. Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
Jordan Love and Russell Wilson. Interesting.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, Russell was not even Jackson Dart. I was like, I guess one of those is that. Um, okay. Uh, Bengals, Steelers. Man, which of these pretenders will finally show their stripes? Probably the Steelers.
Yeah. That's a safe bet. 49ers at Cardinals. It's sad when a division rival's practice squad is better than your actual football team.
Oh, Ravens, Browns. If your incompetent football play lasts for more than 3 hours, please reach out to a physician immediately. That's for the Browns because they're bad and they've been bad for a long
True,
time.
true.
Um, actually, I've got a second take. I
Okay.
love doing one-liners where I do three of them until I'm content.
Yeah.
Ravens, Browns. Man, when was the last time Lamar Jackson looked like the second best quarterback on the field?
Oh.
Hey,
Yuck. Dylan Gabriel, they call him. I feel
Dylan
like
Gabriel.
I keep hearing random QB controversy that's like, oh, he's not that great. Should they put in Shadur? And I'm like, then I look at it stats and I like watch some highlights and I'm like, I don't think he looked bad.
I do have a third one. I have a third one. I'm sorry.
Great.
Ravens, Browns, the Shadur Sanders Bowl, the team that almost
Mm-hmm.
drafted the headache And the team that already had such a bad migraine, they figured, what's one more?
There you go. That was nice.
I've got a
So,
fort. Oh, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
so I have the last one here. Uh, Cowboys at Raiders, Monday Night Football. Why did we put the Raiders in this slot? That's that's really all I can think. Why are they here?
Um, I
Pain.
sometimes envision the schedule makers in their like massive chamber of permutations, and they're like, could we fix it? There was nothing we could do. In every timeline, the Raiders must play on Monday Night Football.
It's like,
Oh boy.
oh man, like how good did we think this team was going to be? Is it just because they're a Vegas team? Is that the idea?
I guess like the best version of Gino with Ashton Genty was something to believe in. I don't know. Shout out Young the Giant for the song Something
There
to Believe
there will be absolutely no defense played in this game. I should say that.
in.
Although I guess the Cowboys did trade for a couple defenders at the deadline and haven't played since then, so we haven't seen their new look defense. But
Yeah.
man,
The Quinnen Williams game. Let's go.
yeah, I love that they traded for Kenny Clark and they said, actually, we need another defensive tackle. We need somebody else.
They love that interior pressure, man. And then they got
Apparently.
Logan Wilson on the second level backing up their elite defensive tackle play. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, you think when they made the schedule, they thought, yeah, Quinnen Williams is going to be the sell of this
No,
week 11
I actually
timeline.
don't think that they thought that one bit.
I agree. I agree. Um, I think it's time to kick.
It's time to kick. It's time to kick. You know
Why
what?
not
I need to
kick
get
your
my
mind?
first Lions jersey.
Yeah,
We should
what
do a poll for all three listeners to decide which Lions jersey I should get.
if I think if they're still listening, they just get to tell you like whoever's still listening. I don't know who do you think if you were picking for yourself?
Um, that's a good question. I think Panay Sewell comes to mind just because I think the offensive line never gets a ton of rep. The Lions do, and he does, but I think just as generally speaking as a position. Um, I think that Amon-Ra makes sense. I have an Amon-Ra shirt. Gibbs kind of seems like it's Addie's thing, so I'll let Addie keep that. I'm not super interested in Goff. And then if I had to choose a defender, or if I had to choose from defenders, Kirby Joseph comes to mind. I don't really know why, but he does. Um, and really, that's it. I don't know. I'm not a huge like. I like Hutch, but I'm not like, oh, Hutch. Derek Barnes, that's kind of your thing. Brian
You also have to get that
Branch,
jersey made custom, I believe. So,
fair. Fair, fair, fair.
um, yeah, I don't let this influence your decision. My dad wears Sewell, um,
Hmm.
and so I'm like, how many jerseys can I get around me that aren't mine that are
I
different,
do,
right?
I do think, I am kind of your pod father, so that could work.
I like that. The Podfather, yeah. Speaking of, can I tease Friday?
Let's tease Friday. What's Friday? Oh yeah.
Um, an electric recording session coming up on Friday. I will be guest spotting a two-man game. It will briefly be a three-man game, which I know a lot of NBA fans out there think there are too many threes, but this trio is going to be
What they
working
call the
some of these
triangle
triangle
offense.
triangle offense. Very excited. I don't want to spoil the content, but if you've been following the NBA and the NFL, and you've gotten to the end of this podcast, and you've read anything on ESPN, some exciting news came out about the association, as the kids call it. So excited to be joining y'all on that. Excited for the fact that you just subscribed, you just liked. Ooh, I felt it. You commented, beautiful.
No
And I'm
one ever
about to kick.
comments. No one ever comments.
Well, hey, you know what? I have comments. Great job, Damon. That's my comment.
Hey, great job yourself, huh?
Um, that's okay. I don't like praise. How long should this kick be? I can't think of a field goal worth replicating.
I was also thinking, how about in the Dolphins game, their kicker absolutely shanked an extra point way into the audience, so you can make up for that one.
Oh, there was another one where they absolutely like whiffed on a gotta have it kick. God, what was that game? Oh,
I
it was
know,
like this.
was it one of the 10-7 games they missed to bring it to overtime, a field goal. The Packers missed a field goal at the end,
Maybe,
to bring
maybe
that.
no, it was the Packers because they had the attempt, they didn't get it because it was out of
Yeah,
McManus's range, and
yeah,
then they tried for the short play, didn't get it, and then McManus was like off camera. Um,
yeah.
it
He had
was
to
one
come
of the
back.
bigger
It was weird.
misses I've seen in a while. I'm not doing this to avenge the Packers. I'm doing this to send the overtime to make their loss all the more heartbreaking because I am a Lions fan. Forgive
And this
me.
will send the pod to overtime as well. We'll have to come up with all new content. So.
Okay, just send the pod to overtime. Oh, I whiffed left. Oh no.
Oh, what a tragedy. Oh, I can't believe you've
Oh.
done this. Oh, so sad. Now I guess we have no choice but to end because that kick was no good.